3 o'clock on this Thursday afternoon. Welcome aboard the Postgame Show alongside Elijah Campbell. I'm Jay Phillips. Appreciate you being with us. Jack Veltry stopping by in just a little bit. We'll talk some Gamecock hoops. Yep. And we'll get into a little...
A basketball game did happen.
Well, and you were there. I will...
So I can't confirm.
We'll get into some of this for you. There were pockets of positivity, right?
Good way of putting it. I liked the intensity to start the game.
Yeah.
Defensively, you could tell they were locked in. You saw more defensive intensity and ball pressure and ability to slow down Alabama a little bit through the first 5 or 6 minutes of the game than you probably saw in the first half at any point against Mississippi State, or somebody would say most of the game.
Then it kind of... Well, anyway, we'll get into that. And we have some sound from Coach Paris. We will have the EBPI evaluation. And we'll see how far along the EBPI machine is in looking to Saturday afternoon's matinee performance with Auburn. How about A&M?
Talk about one of the toughest wins of the year, man.
If y'all didn't see it last night,
that was
A&M
a thriller.
In Norman down 18 points.
And their leading scorer.
Yeah.
No Way Taylor last night.
And they came back and won it. Their defense, man, just Oklahoma was like, what the heck? We're up by 18. Oh, we're only up by 6. Oh,
Zurich Phelps happened.
We're losing. Oh, we lost.
You want to talk about a team who it wasn't maybe the biggest, splashiest transfer portal addition at the time, but it has turned out to be arguably the most impactful transfer in the SEC right now. Zurich Phelps from SMU. He scored 34 last night, hit that game-winning 3, and was their entire offense, basically, off the dribble. He was awesome. They defended really well. They defended well despite giving up points because Oklahoma was out of their bleeping minds from three-point line.
Well, they defend well a lot. That's what Buzz's teams are good at. But we'll touch on that for you. And, again, have some sound from Coach Paris coming up. The women's basketball team plays today at 5 o'clock on our sister station, 98.5. If you can't make it, many of you will be there. Remember, 5 o'clock game, 5 o'clock tip-off today. As our good friend John Nichols said yesterday, it's a happy hour.
Yes.
Not a matinee, not an evening game, not a night game. Happy hour game.
Happy hour.
Yeah. And I think you can get a beer there if you want to. Maybe
you can. They do sell them.
Glass of wine if that suits your fancy. They have wine?
I don't know. I have never had wine at a sporting event.
No.
I know they sell it. They sell it most.
Yeah, I can't tell you I've ever had wine at a sporting event either. In fact,
I just don't know if I would ever crave wine.
Wine and sports don't do it for me. I am a big fan of red wine. I'm not so much on white wine, but not at sports.
Now, I will say I would have a good time occasionally in college. A buddy of mine who was on the MTSU coaching staff would come over. We'd rewatch games or whatever, and he'd bring over a bottle of Cabernet. And it was fun. It was nice. It was a soothed, relaxing environment. When you're not watching it for the first time, a rewatch for something, I think wine could be appropriate for it.
Okay, fair.
But if I'm watching something live, man, or I'm at an event, it's a brew for me.
No, I need a beer.
Yeah,
need a beer. All right. We'll get into plenty of Gamecock stuff for you. There's some portal activity today. No commitments, at least at last check that I have seen, but some activity. But we're going to start with I'm not going to say shocking news, but surprising news
I think this is shocking.
That just came down in the last 20, 30 minutes or so. I don't know. But you may have heard us mention it right at the end of the halftime show. If you haven't, if you've just tuned in, Carson Beck has entered the transfer portal. He will not go into the draft as he had originally stated a couple of weeks ago after his injury in the SEC championship game. Instead, he's going to transfer. Pete Nakos, who does a great job for On 3, Pete has become like the portal guru. You know what Shefty is to the NFL and movement, or Jeff Passan for Major League Baseball, guys like that. Pete has turned into that for On 3 when it comes to portal reporting. And he is now saying Ohio State, Miami, and Texas Tech are the early leaders. That's the chatter that he is hearing, with the Hurricanes apparently out front on this. So there's that. why are you leaving Georgia? That's my thing here. Now, I know there can be reasons as to why. And it would seem Elijah Campbell, and for now, we're going to have to speculate on this. But for now, it would seem that the reason he is not going to return to Georgia is because Georgia has said, you probably don't need to return.
And he already said he wasn't going to be back anyway.
Yeah, so in that interim, which is only, like 3 weeks, let's say a month?
Yeah.
Has Kirby already told Gunnar Stockton, all right, you're number one, and now we know Rashada left, but we were probably planning for that anyway.
That's kind of what he does.
And I forget the other kid's name that was the third teamer, but now he
DJ Shockley.
And so who's around? I don't know. Not DJ Shockley. It's not DJ Shockley.
Oh, if you're anytime someone mentions a Georgia backup quarterback, they're DJ Shockley to me.
The current number
All
3.
backup quarterbacks at Georgia are DJ Shockley to me.
How long ago was that?
Man, that was like 15 years ago now.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Oh,
even
God,
you
more
sound
so,
old.
No, more so. No, that was like 2004 to 7. So that's more. Shoot, that's almost 20 years ago.
Pete Nakos is on right now. Pete is great, by the way, but I swear Pete Nakos looks like he is 12.
He does.
It's amazing. I know, he's probably about your age, but he looks like he's about 12. But he's very good at his job. This surprises me because, again, Beck is good. He's very good. I think he's very good. He's not elite, but I think he's very good. Mm-hmm. And it's Georgia. I love Georgia, hate Georgia, don't care about Georgia. Doesn't matter to me. You can't debate Georgia's place in college football's hierarchy. So something is up beyond just, well, I wanted to go in the portal and then I didn't. I mean, and here's the thing, too. If Kirby, and I'm sure Mike Bobo is involved. I'm still not certain that Georgia is going to keep Mike Bobo as offensive coordinator.
You don't think so?
I'm not sold on it yet. I don't know if Kirby's letting some things play out just a little bit. You got time. If you want to make an OC change, you don't have to do that right now.
Probably should.
He should be thinking about it. But again, is someone still playing at either the NFL or collegiate level? You're not getting Todd Monken back.
No, he's got big fish to fry.
Dude, what he is doing with Lamar is so. I mean, Todd Monken is about
comical.
Todd Monken is about to, unless he becomes a head coach, Todd Monken is about to blow up the coordinator market for salary.
Oh yeah.
I don't even know what he's making right now, but I mean, you go to Mr. Bisciotti there, the owner of the Ravens, and be like, I'll tell you what, just double it, and we'll be good. All right? I mean,
where would you guess he is right now in terms of highest paid? You get the crack staff here on it. In terms of the highest paid coordinators in the NFL.
Well, how much money did Detroit give Ben Johnson? God, man, he's got to be top. I don't know, top 5 in coordinator salary.
Let's see. So
if I count both sides of the ball, that's what, 64 coordinators
going into the season, going into the 2020. So updated. This is from Front Office Sports as of November 15th, 24. Todd Monken is tied for the highest paid coordinator in the NFL at $3 million a year, tied with, and you would never guess this.
I probably wouldn't. It's not Ben Johnson, I guess.
No, Ben Johnson is tied for 6th. Him and Arthur Smith are both making 2. Mike Kafka, the New York Giants.
Wow.
$3 million offensive coordinator for an offense that doesn't like to score the football.
Well, it's New York. It's a cost of living.
You got to play that one on a curve a little bit. You got to grade it a little differently.
Yeah,
Nathaniel Hackett's number 5. That's hilarious.
So
Ken Dorsey was 4.
Monken's about to blow it up. But the job he is doing is remarkable. I mean, I know the talent that he has, but you put the two together and look at what they're doing. You're gonna. I don't know if Lamar's going to win the MVP again or not, but it's going to be close. But anyway, let's come back around to it. Kirby is going to have said, okay, well, I mean, does Carson call him back? Like, we don't know these things yet. right? So, again, we sit here and we talk. This is what we do. Does Carson call him back? Hey, Coach, I don't want to go to the NFL yet. Well, okay. But Gunner's our guy. Hope that Lamborghini travels. It's a Lamborghini, right? Not a Ferrari?
Yes,
okay.
I think. Yeah. Well, it definitely does travel. It has 4 tires.
Right.
It should be able to travel across the continental United States.
So it should. Yeah. All right, there goes Carson Beck.
Hard to go incognito.
And Texas Tech? I mean, Miami, I'll give you.
Yeah, because his girlfriend goes to Miami.
And he's from Jacksonville, right?
I believe so.
Not that that's anywhere close to Miami. It's actually a really long.
I was going to say that's
Miami, but it's still Florida, so it's closer than Athens is.
Be quite the haul.
And then what was the other one? Oh, Ohio State. I mean, I can see that, but this is weird, man.
And probably not even Ohio State. I mean, this is what we were talking about before you came in. Came into this the studio to talk with Terry and Tyler. How many teams? Because I mean, he's entering the portal pretty late in the game. How many teams that we think are going to be in legit national title contention don't already have their quarterback, like for next year, don't already have their guy in place?
Well,
like a place like Oregon, Dante Moore is going to be the starter, and I think they'd be willing to roll the dice on Dante Moore than bring in Carson Beck. Ohio State's probably going to play Julian Sand next year. I don't think they go portaling because Julian Sand was a highly rated 5-star quarterback who's now sat his time in 2 straight years at 2 different schools with Alabama and Ohio State, learning behind some pretty good quarterbacks. It's probably his time. It's not going to be Texas because even if Ewers decided to come back to Texas, Texas ain't going to start him. That's Arch Manning's job.
Well, that's why I say Texas Tech. I mean, Lubbock's a long way from everything. And is that...
And are they built to really win right now? Is that a place you'd want to go? Is that a place you're elevating your draft stock?
No, thank you. That's my final point on this is where are you going to elevate your draft stock?
Unless they promise that you're going to throw the ball 60 times a game.
And they might. Texas Tech has long, been a school that likes to chuck the ball around ever since the old Mike Leach days and Kingsbury and all that kind of stuff. And, that Mahomes fellow went there. So I just, I don't know, man. This just... It's because of where he was that makes this such a surprising announcement.
Stunning, yeah.
And how long, when did Georgia last play? On New Year's Day?
January 2nd.
The 2nd, that's right, because of the delay.
Yeah.
So, and you get it, so this is inside the window? You get a week after your team plays?
Mm-hmm. He was still technically on the roster.
Man, I don't know. But anyway, Carson Beck in the portal, not the draft. Now, I guess he could change his mind again. Miami makes the most sense.
Yeah, certainly, because Cam Ward's leaving.
Well, and you and I were talking with our friend Chris Logan out front, our production director, and Chris was like, "What about Belichick?" I don't.
I'm not putting it out of the realm of possibility. Because North Carolina did say they were going to commit a lot of money to the NIL space to try to acquire a lot of talent. They've already hit the portal pretty hard. They need a quarterback next year.
How much of the help that Cam Ward had? Because believe it or not, when a quarterback throws the ball for all those yards,
he had some great receivers.
People have to catch it.
Yeah,
and run with it. How many of those dudes are leaving? How many of those dudes are back? How much does it look like they can be able to?
I think Xavier Restrepo's gone.
Cultivate that same level of talent.
Yeah. But surely they can. Surely they can get in the portal, get a couple of impact receivers, and maybe a tight end here and there.
Whew. But this would signal to me that Gunnar Stockton is the guy.
I would say so. Or they have their eye on another transfer portal quarterback who might still be playing college football, if you're catching my drift.
Quinn Ewers.
Maybe. Wouldn't that be wild?
Yes.
That'd be hilarious.
Can't beat him. Join him.
That's right. Quinn Ewers, the college football's Kevin Durant.
803-404-6100 to be a part of the program. Text us in with your thoughts on this. Where do you think Carson Beck will or should go? We'll get into that for you. Talk a little hoops with Elijah. Jack Beltry coming up in about 15 minutes. It's the Postgame Show. I tell you about our good friends at Cato's Power Equipment. I talked to my buddy Ben Cato yesterday about what's going on. They have remodeled the shop. That's right. Even though they've been in business a long time to spruce things up. Ben said they just got going with a little bit and then got going with a little bit more. And next thing you knew, it was time to make the entire showroom look brand new. So they've done that for you. Stop in and see what's up. 4012 West Beltline Boulevard, not too far at all from Two Notch Road. Again, they've been there a long time. Or you can go online, catospowerequipment.com. If you, like me, have resolved to do even better yard work in 2025, stop in for a brand new selection, especially these great battery-powered pieces of equipment, blowers, trimmers, edgers, lawn mowers, even riding mowers that are battery powered now, right? Less to break down, more efficient, easier to run, and you're done that much quicker. Cato's, making life easier for you. Whether you do it for yourself, you do it for a living, see Cato's for great sales, service, and advice. Cato's Power Equipment. Twenty minutes after 3 o'clock Thursday afternoon. Welcome back into the Postgame Show. Jay and Elijah with you. Kale's hanging out with us here. Jack Veltri, Gamecock Central, coming up in just a little bit. We'll shift things around a little today. We'll move our drive around the SEC to 4:30. And at 5:30 today, we will be playing a playoff edition.
Playoffs?
Playoffs?
talking about playoffs
of the Wild Card Showdown. It'll have both college semifinal games and the first weekend of games in the NFL.
I'm just trying to win a game.
That's
Don't
right.
talk about playoffs.
As it stands right now, speaking of trying to win and playoffs,
It's probably neck and neck.
well, it is, and you know, by a weird twist of fate, Elijah Campbell has taken the lead. But check this out: we both have 43 wins.
The push.
I have 41 losses. Elijah has 40. Elijah had the Missouri-Iowa Bowl game, and it pushed. And so that gives him a technical advantage over me. So it is a technicality.
All hail the push. Hey, I mean, if we
It
could
counts.
avoid, we could avoid this by throwing hooks on this thing.
Yeah,
We
but
could.
I just use, listen, I go now, I used to use Vegas Insider and get their consensus line when I was making these things. And now I just use because it's much, much more convenient for me, I just use the ESPN bet line, whatever it is, when I'm making it. So on that particular morning, it was a 3-point spread. I don't want to put a half point on all of them. I guess we could, but I don't know which direction to go. Do I take it down a half or up a half? I don't know. This isn't like ordering shoes. You know, if you wear a 10.5, order up.
Always go up. 6 point underdogs. Make it 6.5.
6.5.
Easy enough.
Well, anyway, I didn't, and it is to your advantage. But I still feel confident.
It's the monster you created.
I still feel confident. We'll come back around to the big story of the afternoon that, again, has come down in the last hour. In fact, I'm looking at a timestamp here that says 43 minutes ago, Carson Beck entering the transfer portal rather than moving on to the NFL draft. So we'll come back around to that in just a little bit, especially as we maybe, hopefully, get some more detail on this. I know our good friend Seth Emerson is probably incredibly busy on this one for the Athletic, so we'll touch on it for you. 88-68, the final score last night. Number 5 Alabama coming in and really taking care of South Carolina pretty much from the get-go. There were moments in the first half, especially where I thought South Carolina was going toe-to-toe for a bit. And look, early, you might expect some of that. Eventually, Nate Oates and his guys are going to figure you out. I do have on here as part of my notes, and I'll tap the page. I wrote down for one of my notes, Elijah, Sears is simply better than you. And he proved it last night. When you have elite point guard play, it makes everybody around him better. The kid has ice water in his veins. You can just see it. There's a confidence about him. I don't think it's a brashness. There's just a confidence to how he plays his basketball. He's a senior now. He's been doing this a while. So it's not surprising. Here's what's interesting to me, dare I say mildly ironic. South Carolina's guard play last night wasn't bad from a scoring perspective, at least.
The issue, it wasn't good enough at creating shots for others. And
Right.
that's kind of a microcosm as to what things are this year. Like, look, as a team, your assist-to-turnover ratio in 2 SEC games, granted, 2 really good defenses.
Right.
Or one really good defense and a really solid defense in Alabama. Alabama can D up.
They just don't. They don't want to.
Yeah, it's not their calling.
Yeah, they don't want to.
Right. But I mean, 2 teams that are top 45 defenses in the sport. Your assist-to-turnover ratio is 18 assists to 29 turnovers. That's not going to get it done, right? And you saw some of that scoring. Like the scoring from your guards wasn't bad. Like Jacoby had a really good night off the bounce. I thought he took his defender off the dribble and was able to get to his spots and make shots he was comfortable making, and that's great. But he had 1 assist, 2 turnovers. Zachary Davis, 2 assists, 1 turnover. Jamari Thomas, your main point guard and primary ball handler, had 1 assist and 3 turnovers. You need them to be able to help create shots for others, right? It's good if you can create a shot for yourself off the bounce. You got to be able to get a defense out of position. And they're so far in the first 2 games of conference play, and at times in the non-conference slate, they didn't do a good enough job making defenses work to put 2 on the ball and get them scrambling. It haven't done enough of that, and that's really where the issue lies offensively to me. And that, and Colin just being in a slump right now, 6 points on 1 of 6 shooting.
Yeah, can we get to that one?
He's been struggling.
Yeah, let's hear from Lamont Paris on what he is and is not seeing from his star player.
Well, I mean, today I think it was personnel. I think that's a hard guy for him to score on. Colin is strong. That guy is strong. And that guy has a combination of, and if you look at both of these games, right, it's Matthews in that game.
Diabate today?
Yeah, so the common denominator is you have a physically capable defender from a strength and power standpoint, which you have to have if you're going to guard Colin. And then those guys also can move laterally as well. And most players don't have the combination of both of those things. They're usually either one or the other, but both of those guys had both of those. And then he just, he didn't get to some of his moves weren't strong moves. He went away from the basket, got himself pinned behind the backboard on one of them, missed one that, was a good opportunity. Got fouled a couple times or one time on a good hard drive. And so it's still a work in progress. He's got to continue to develop as an offensive generator of offense.
I still contend that until such time as someone else emerges, Elijah, you back me up or you push back your choice, that opposing defenses, opposing coaches will say, listen, just stop 30. Because nobody else is really going to step up. I was disappointed, if that's the right word to use, probably isn't, but for lack of a better one in this conversation, to see after we talked so much about Morris Ugasuk and what he had looked like he was doing, he was in there more last night than his average at least, but he did nothing last night. I mean, didn't even take a three-point shot last night. Scored no points, was just over 2 from the floor in 23 minutes. Grabbed a couple of boards, and that was about it. South Carolina, again, overall, look, I'll take 43% shooting from the floor. That's not horrible, except that for the second straight conference game, you've allowed – Bama a shade under 55%. I think State had 56, 57% the other day from the floor overall. I mean, when you're giving up, when your opponent is shooting better than 52, 53%, in this case 54, 55, it doesn't matter what you're doing.
And they're getting a lot of shots at the rim, too. I mean, I asked Nate Oates in the presser last night, what his team did well enough to get 26 shot attempts, because Stat Broadcast had it at 26, either layups or dunk attempts. And he's like, well, I got a different chart. We chart things a little differently, on our bench, and we've accounted here for 30, shots at the rim. And I was like, okay, well, you and Stat Broadcast do it a little differently, but I mean, still, the sentiment is the same. You got to the rim a ton, and it's easier to make. That's why Alabama's the number 2 two-point shooting team in college basketball. Right. It's not because they make a lot of tough mid-rangers. Even last night, he kind of admitted the only player he allows to take a lot of mid-range shots is Aiden Holloway. Because Aiden Holloway's, he can get to those spots off the bounce. He makes those in good rhythm. But he said the entire game plan was to get their ball handlers downhill because they thought they could get that advantage. They thought they can get downhill. They did. They got downhill, got to the rim, were able to get into lobs. How many lobs did you see last night? A lot. They used that athleticism a lot. And one of the things I talked about yesterday on the show was make them have to take a lot of contested threes. They only shot 19. 19 threes, 45 twos. That is significantly larger of a gap than it's been at any game this season for them.
That's a remarkable number, actually. And they were very good from three as well. They were bad at the line, I'll say that much.
Ironically, yeah. I mean, 50%. They threw up bricks. They gave you opportunities whenever they went to the free throw line to get back in the game a little bit. They couldn't score when the clock was stopped.
But that one little place where I was circling, what can you do, or what would it look like at the under 8 timeout? And I was saying could you hope as a Gamecock that you could be in single digits? And at the under 8, it was 15.
Yeah.
So
at that point, you knew it wasn't.
No, you didn't have it. You just didn't have it. We'll get more on the game from Elijah, more from Coach Paris, and our buddy Jack Veltri was there with Elijah as well last night. He'll join us on the other side. You're listening to the Postgame Show. I love telling you about integrated media, Columbia's leader in today's and in some cases tomorrow's technology for your home, for your business. TVs from Sony, from Samsung, amazing surround sound systems, Dolby Atmos, Sonos wireless speakers you can pick up and move around, whatever you might want. 803-948-8327 is the phone number for Integrated Media. If you're ready to cut the cord here, maybe you've resolved to do that. See my theme for January? Yeah, that's what I'm doing. If you've resolved to make things better for you, they can help you with cutting the cord, get you ready for all your streaming with amazing professional-grade Wi-Fi, built for the home, easy to use, easy to understand. They'll do all that for you, all right? And they make house calls, so call them up with whatever you need, indoors, outdoors, one room, whole house, security systems, cameras, you name it, they get it done for you. 803-948-8327. Do it all better with home theater with our good friends at Integrated Media. Talking some Carolina hoops, get into a little off-season football news as well. Jay and Elijah with you. We welcome on to the program our good friend Jack Veltri on the beat for Gamecock Central. He was courtside last night with Elijah and others as Carolina fell to Alabama. He is also busy putting together the staff picks. Is Yuva still cheating to win on the staff picks? Who's in first right now?
You know what, guys? I begrudgingly have to say that Terry Ford is still first right now. He is actually unbelievable. I've actually made some progress. I am one game behind him in the standings for first place. So, Jay, you're doing pretty well right now. You had a great week, actually. Your record is 101-51, and Elijah is, 99-53 on the year. So you guys are all doing very well over there from 107.5.
All right, that's good. That's good. That means Elijah is about a half game ahead of me in our own picks contest that he and I do, just the two of us here on the program, well, with listeners. And that means I'm 2 games ahead of him. So if you're half game ahead here and I'm 2 games ahead there, I'm winning.
I don't think that's how it works.
Well, it does for me.
I don't. This is America, Jay. We don't do aggregate scores.
Oh. Well, so what are we splitting? No, I'm ahead. Anyway, all right, Jack. Let's get into. I just got Elijah's take on last night. There were, I said there were pockets of positivity for South Carolina last night. That's obviously not enough, and when you lose by 20 points, but I suppose you try to find those little places to build upon, because now there are still 16 games left in conference play. The interesting thing for this opening week is that these games get increasingly more difficult from an opponent standpoint. And if South Carolina lost last night by 20 to Alabama, I don't know what you cling to hope-wise when Auburn comes to town on Saturday. How are you looking at it?
Yeah, look, this is a very rigorous schedule, and I guess if there's any silver lining, this is about as tough as it's going to get right out of the gate, with Auburn coming to town on Saturday to wrap up a really tough 3-game week for South Carolina. But it's tough right now, right? It's tough to find the positives, especially after 2 games in which you've lost by a combined 55 points. 35 to Mississippi State on Saturday, and then, like you guys said, 20 yesterday to Alabama. I thought they played better yesterday. Like, it's hard to play much worse than you did on Saturday out in Starkville, but you showed some life, I think, and that's something you can take moving forward. Obviously, you want to get wins right now, but that's going to be tough to do, especially with how really tough this schedule has been. So, there are moments where this game was it looked like South Carolina had some life in it and shot the ball decently. Well, not great, but it could be better. But, yeah, you're right. I think it's tough to find all the positivity right now, but, it's hopefully it's up from here.
And, Jack, I know last night, first game without Miles Stute, this is when you're really going to see a little bit of lineup shake up. You got a little more minutes from Morris Ugasuk, but I think the biggest surprise was the amount of minutes that Arden Conyers got. I mean, looking at the box score now, and he got 18 minutes. Probably more minutes in this game than he has the season combined, really. But Arden Conyers got some serious run last night. What do you expect to be able to see from him moving forward? And with Miles being out indefinitely, how much more of a role do you think Arden's going to be able to take on this team?
I think you should be giving Arden about that same role moving forward. Like, if you want to increase his minutes up a little bit, sure, why not? I mean, you're going to have to replace a guy that has played and started 25 minutes a game roughly so far this year for South Carolina with Miles Stute. So, look, from Arden yesterday, he went, I believe, 1 of 6 from the field yesterday, and a lot of his shots seemed to just fall short going off the front of the rim and bouncing out or whatever. And it just seemed like, he put it like this yesterday, that it was his welcome to the SEC moment. And keep in mind, that's like his first legit action of the season, let alone playing nearly 20 minutes yesterday. So I think he's going to be better. I think, as he gets out there more and more, you'll see maybe a little bit more confidence in his shot. I think that's what he definitely needs right now, is the little bit of confidence. Like, once some shots start falling through, he'll be getting better. I think that one shot he hit towards the end of the game yesterday was probably like a big relief, a nice weight off his back. So he can go out there and do it, and obviously the staff believes in him. So I'll be very interested to see how he goes. But to answer your question a little bit more, I do think this is the type of role we see him in going forward.
Talking to Jack Veltri on the beat for Gamecocks. Central Carolina falling to Alabama last night. Auburn comes to town Saturday afternoon. If you try to read between the lines of some of the things that Lamont said in postgame last night about what this team did well and what he'd like to tweak, do you feel like you're not going to make wholesale change at this point in terms of what you're doing with your roster and your rotation, but how much change do you anticipate in an effort to try and find that right level of chemistry?
Well, it's hard to make a lot of change like you referenced there, Jay. It's something that you kind of are what you are, at this point in the year, even though there's still such a long way to go in SEC. I think if you're South Carolina, you try to – Lamont brings up the rules that South Carolina follows, specifically on defense and stuff. And, this is a defensive unit that last year, and to bring it up, I mean, this is a team that was very good defensively last year, giving up – I don't know what the exact average was, but, they were very solid defensively last year. And this year, they're giving up about 67 points per game, which those numbers are a little skewed now lately, considering the fact that South Carolina gave up 85 points to Mississippi State and 88 to Alabama. Two very good offenses right there, and Auburn's going to be no exception to that. So for South Carolina, I think it's just tweaking a little bit of what you're doing. I think defensively, you're trying to figure out how to get back to that level you were at last year. That's something Lamont brought up last night. But then it's also the things that you don't even need to go into the X's and O's of. It's being able to be aggressive for 40 minutes. That was something that they were good at for a little bit of the first half last night. Then it kind of seemingly wore off a little bit. And then also just the competitive edge and that factor of the desire to win. It kind of goes hand in hand with the aggressiveness. So it's things like that don't require you to, watch a ton of film. You just know you have to be better in those aspects.
And then for the game against Auburn, I know Jay asked, what you can cling to give you hope. But when watching this game, I think asking them to beat what will be the number one team in the country next week is a pretty tall task. But how would you chart actual progress, right? I mean, that's one thing, too. How would you be able to chart what would be a successful showing against this Auburn team that, quite frankly, you didn't have any success at all against last year or the year before? A very similar team, but a team that got better over the last 2 years. This is the best version of themselves. How are you, at least when you watch this game on Saturday, charting progress in terms of this is getting improved or this is getting better?
Yeah, this Auburn team presents a boatload of challenges. They are a tough group that, I was at both these games last year when Auburn killed South Carolina, and this is a very dangerous team even beyond last year. This is a good group for sure. I think, number one, you want to see Colin Murray-Boyles be more effective. And, look, he struggled last year in that SEC tournament game out in Nashville against Joe Nyberg, went for 4 points, 1-9 shooting, very similar to the struggles he's going through now. And, Jonai is such a good big man. He's probably one of the best players in college basketball, so that's going to be a tall task. But if you can get anything productive from CMB in terms of, like, what we've been used to seeing from him before, that's a great sign right there. And that is something that if he starts getting on a roll, I think a lot of things start to improve and fall into place just because so much of what you do runs through him. But also, I think, just like I said before, you want to come out playing aggressive, doing that for a longer period of time, and just showing that you can actually compete with this team. I'm not saying you need to win this game. You'd love to do that. That would change so many things if you could win on Saturday. But if you can go out there and keep this game relatively close, that's something that not many teams are able to do against Auburn this year. Duke's been the only team to beat them so far through this early stretch of the season. If South Carolina can go out there and show that, yeah, we can keep this game relatively close within, 10 to 15 points or less, then I think that's like, okay, they're not that far off from being where they want to be maybe.
Jack, good stuff as always. We'll get you and talk some football here as the portal continues to try and refeed this Carolina roster. Appreciate it, man. Have a great weekend. We'll see you soon.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys. Thanks so much.
That's Jack Veltri, GamecockCentral.com. The website, Jack T. Veltri, to follow along on Twitter. We'll get some sound from Dawn Staley ahead of today's game with A&M when the postgame show returns. 11 minutes in front of 4 o'clock on this Thursday afternoon. Welcome back into the Postgame Show. Jay and Elijah with you. Appreciate you being with us. Thanks, as always, to our good friend Jack Veltri for joining us. Cale Wilson just sailing out the door here. He's been running the board a little bit.
Yeah.
Listening to Dave's stories. Had to be. Do we have to pay him extra for that, or how does that work?
To listen to Dave's stories?
Yeah.
Actually, he that's what he gets paid in, is endless knowledge. And infinite wisdom.
Can you resell that?
How about no? I don't know. Why would you ever want to resell?
Well,
that's the thing. The reason no one's ever been able to answer that question is because no one's thought to ask it, because why would you resell that?
Well, let's see if we can put that on the market and find out what happens. We just write a book.
David Ayer Thoughts would make an incredible coffee table book that you could buy a loved one for Christmas next year, of course, or a birthday this year.
Carolina women will play at 5 o'clock today against Texas A&M, as I awkwardly segue out of that one.
Good luck.
Let's go to cut 16 on today's list, please, sir. Here's Coach Dawn on how the team is responding to the difficult news that Ashlyn Watkins is done for the season with an ACL injury.
Ashlyn told them. I didn't tell them. I mean, I gave it to her to tell them, and obviously they're saddened by it because she's an integral part of our team. But injuries happen. And a lot of times when our players get injured, whether it's for a shorter period of time or at the end of the season, we just keep it moving. Try not to harp on it too much because it's felt. But the more you move on, the more they move on, and our players have to move on. I mean, it's a part of it, and I feel like other people will step up and play a bigger role for us. That's the people that didn't play a whole lot, and the people who are, who are in the game, played on a regular basis.
All I got out of that, really,
Champ had some stuff to say.
Champ was like, pass me the damn ball.
I'm open.
Yeah.
Champ's like, you know what, Mom? I'll take this question, okay?
Yeah.
You step back. I'll take the question.
Listen, this is a difficult one to absorb. And as we talked about, there's never a good time for an injury to any player, but especially a key player. And as Elijah has been pointing out, I think you make a strong debate in calling Ashlyn Watkins one of, if not the best defenders in women's college basketball. So this is going to be tough. And A&M is a good basketball team. Texas coming in this weekend is an even better basketball team. So
top 5 team in the country.
Yeah, and I don't know where this Carolina team is right now in terms of the belief in themselves and how much this kind of impacts it. I mean, I'm not saying they're doubting themselves. I don't mean it that way. And we know they only have the one loss, and they're still winning comfortably. But is this one of those galvanizing type moments? Is this something that is kind of, a type of reset button? I don't want to say just a plain old reset, right? But something that has them kind of look each other and themselves in the eye and say, okay, we've got to do something a little bit different now, and what that does to the group collectively. We'll start to find out tonight.
Yeah, it's assuming adjustment. Minutes are going to have to swap around. I went back and was watching, a little more closely, trying to figure out if there's anything that changed, when Ashlyn went out, how they ran the offense and the defense. I mean, some of that defensive burden is going to be more so placed on the shoulders of someone like Joyce Edwards or Sanaya Fagan. Chloe as well. I mean, those three are going to get the bulk of the minutes down the post, so you're not going to be able to platoon swap. Like for Dawn, right? This will be an acclimation period for her in terms of figuring out the rotation. Yeah. Because it's pretty convenient, if your two forwards, need a blow on the sideline, need to reset and catch their breath, you can sub them out for two that are, you can sub out Chloe and Ashlyn, for Sanaya and Joyce, right? But now you can't do it in a platoon type way. Like, you're going to have to be able to figure out what lineups work. And, I thought that the Chloe and Sanaya combination in the Mississippi State game was really good. When, Ashlyn goes down, Joyce enters into the game, and you are, net zero in those minutes that they're in the game. And then that game, after that, Sanaya subs in for Joyce, and then you are plus 11 in those minutes until you make a sub again. You're going to have to figure out in those type of situations who is paired best with what. And you've already been kind of doing that throughout the season. So it's not like you don't have any data points to be able to look back and be able to do this. But now you're going to have to do it based on matchup, maybe a little more specifically and with fewer options than what you did for the first 2 months of the year.
And I would imagine even to be, when it's finally time, because Ashland's been coming off the bench, that first couple of seconds when Dawn is ready to do that, her first thought tonight even may be, like one of those kind of things, as you just kind of get into the flow and you don't think about everything else. So as you pointed out, I think that's a great point, that this will be an adjustment for Dawn and the staff in terms of what they've done. They're adjusting in practice. They're talking about it. They're watching the film. They're going to still be a great basketball team.
Oh, absolutely.
But it will take multiple people to fill that void. And as I say, there's no good time for it, but third game of conference play is at least, letting you know that you're going to have a lot of time to get it done. Brad will be on the call at 4:30 on our sister station 98.5, 5 o'clock tip-off, Gamecocks and A&M from CLA. We'll get into more potential changes. A new story developing about what the NCAA could look like. We'll be right back. Oh, it's super cold right now, and you're waking up going, oh, man, I'm just a little too stiff. And then as you kind of warm up, you realize, man, I'm still kind of stiff. Maybe it's not just the cold. Well, maybe it's time to get to the Joint Chiropractic Centers. You gotten through the stresses of the holiday season and maybe even lugging all the decorations back to the attic or down to the basement, whatever you might do. And it's just time to feel a little bit better. That's what they want you to do at the Joint. It's real simple. They just want to improve your overall health. They want to make sure that you maintain and prevent reoccurring problems, too. Very convenient locations: Harbison Boulevard, Forest Drive, Roberts Branch off Killian, Sunset Boulevard in Lexington. You can be in and out quickly Monday through Friday, 10 to 7, Saturdays 10 to 4. You never need an appointment. You never have to worry about insurance. They're FSA and HSA approved. So, convenience, that's right there for you. Remember, you don't have to feel bad to feel better at the Joint Chiropractic Centers. 4 o'clock on this Thursday. Welcome back into the Postgame Show. Jay and Elijah with you. Appreciate you being with us. We're inside the Herndon Chevy Studios in downtown Columbia, wherever you might be. Appreciate you being with us. We're shifting things around a little bit today because we're going to have a Thursday wildcard showdown coming up for you in the 5 o'clock hour. The reason we're doing that is because we do have one college playoff game tonight.
How do you feel about the Thursday, then Friday format of the college football playoff? Because in the 4-team playoff, we always had the games on the same night, and it was a doubleheader, which was nice.
Yep.
But I kind of like having one game Thursday night, one game Friday night from a viewership standpoint.
Yeah, and I know they were scared to death of going head-to-head with an NFL playoff game, so they just didn't do it.
Yeah, I wouldn't want that either.
Can I be honest with you? What I don't like, and I'm not answering your question directly, but I will ultimately come back around to it. I do not like the Monday night NFL playoff game.
Yeah, I've never loved that.
And now I know that they may have to move it, unfortunately, because of what's going on in L.A., which is just beyond
horrific.
Awful. Wow. I was watching the Today Show this morning, and they had the, well, anyway, I'm just, my goodness. But I don't like that because I think that's a real disadvantage for the winner of that game.
Oh yeah, a short week.
Yeah, going into the following weekend, that's not cool. Money or not, and yeah,
they don't care.
They don't, and they know, and that's just it. That's what bothers
the owners. Don't care. That check cashing.
Yeah, no,
that's
absolutely.
All they care.
No, that's no. I get why they did it. I just don't like it. And if I'm let's put it this way. They could have found a way to still make a lot of money on a playoff game televised somewhere. But anyway, I don't mind. I'm looking forward to this game tonight because these are two good games. Well, I hope Ohio State Texas is a good game. I think that spread. If I was a gambler, and I'm not, and I may be looking ahead to our contest, but 6 points, man. I'm taking Ohio State minus the points right now.
I think I am too. And really, that one boils down to how Texas is in the red zone, man. That team, as talented as they are, settles for too many damn field goals.
That's fair. And it's starting to cost them. I mean, the kid missed, what, 2?
That poor kid. He got bailed out. His teammates bailed him out because he would not have been welcome back in Austin.
And the one that doinked, I mean, the doink's always the one that, they hurt the most.
The taunting of the sound of the doink is the worst part.
Like Carolina's in the bowl game, and that's why I asked you, did it sound as loud as it did on television?
And ominous.
Because, they
sound more ominous with each one.
And I even rewound it on mine at home just to get the reverb through my subwoofer as well one more time. I was like, man, that resonated.
Those are fun ones to experience if you have surround sound.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. But not so great for the Gamecocks that day. Anyway. No. Yeah, I'm okay with this. I'm okay with this, and then we'll have a championship game on a Monday night, which has been typical for
as long as I've been watching college football,
even since BCS, right?
Yeah, BCS games were. I think those are usually Monday nights.
But certainly CFP has been Monday night, so we've been doing that now for a decade. And I don't, again, I don't mind a championship game on a Monday night. I just don't like an NFL playoff game on a Monday night where you got a short week for a playoff game. I don't think that's cool.
Hate that, yeah.
Yeah, I just don't think that's cool.
The stakes are too big to have short weeks for one team and not the other.
But, tonight, the over-under on this one is, 45, Elijah? I might be going under on that.
I'm going under. Do you trust either of these offenses to put up more than 24 points?
No.
Because they said it was 48?
I got 44.5 as we speak.
44.5. I don't think I can trust either of them to get to 21. Against these defenses. These are two elite defenses.
Yeah. And that game, what we saw from the Georgia defense. I don't know. I can't tell you how much different. I don't want to say better or worse, how much different the Penn State defense is than Georgia's. But the Georgia defense was fantastic against Notre Dame's offense and at least showed Penn State a lot of the things that you can do to frustrate the Irish offensively. Mm-hmm. So I'm with you. I don't think you get a lot of points in this game. I'd take the under, and of course, and then watch it be 30-something to 30-something. But we'll find out.
That'd be a pleasant surprise.
Yeah,
but the under's the move.
We'll talk more about this one in just a little bit. I do want to just inform you once again, if you've just tuned in and hadn't been around anything, a lot of you I know these days get your social media alerts and such. But if you haven't seen any of this, we were, again, I don't want to go so far as to say stunned or shocked, but somewhere close to that Carson Beck, Georgia's starting quarterback, injured, of course, in the SEC championship game, has had his surgery, announcing today that instead of entering the draft, which he was going to do, he is going to transfer. And Pete Nakos of On3 has said that in no particular order. Well, he does have an order. Let me rephrase that. Ohio State, Texas Tech, and Miami are the leading candidates based on some of the things Pete is hearing, from whom we don't know. I know now that Bruce Feldman, Seth Emerson, Pete Thamel, and others are all getting in on this reporting. But Pete Nakos, has said that Miami is maybe the leader. Now, he's dating one of the Cavender twins who become very popular on social media. They play basketball, right? Not volleyball.
Correct.
Yeah, thank you. I knew that. I just wanted to make sure I was right about that.
I appreciate you wanting to double check here.
So that would make a lot of sense, to get down there and go, be closer to your significant other. And I think, too, of the three, obviously Ohio State is the best program, but of the three in terms – listen, if Carson Beck were to leave Georgia for Ohio State, I'm not saying the kid can't handle the pressure or anything like that.
So
Georgia's a pressure cooker itself, but, man, do you want to jump out of the frying pan into the fire kind of a thing. I don't know. I mean, Texas Tech, okay. I don't even know how that fits, but whatever.
It tells me that they actually have a legitimate shot, because think about it.
Well, I know they got a lot of money out there.
I'm going to do the Brian Windhorst meme here. Interesting that somebody who's a national news reporter breaks the story and already has a list of names. Mm-hmm. Who usually leaks these stories before it happens to reporters?
Yeah, agents.
Yeah. Why would an agent would group Miami, which is the obvious draw here because of his relationship status, then put in Ohio State and then throw Texas Tech in there? One of these things doesn't belong.
Right.
One of them is probably legitimate, like Texas Tech, probably a legitimate interest. Obviously, Texas Tech would really want an upgrade at quarterback, and it would be an upgrade.
And it'd be a PR upgrade, too. I mean, you would just get that spotlight on you.
Throwing Ohio State in there does what? It gives you the illusion that the bidding war for him is going to be pretty high. I don't think Ohio State would have legitimate interest in Carson Beck, because they do have someone behind Will Howard, who is a legit 5-star player who has been waiting in line. And by all accounts, they like him a lot.
Right.
You don't get him from Alabama if you don't plan on playing him. By all accounts, Julian Sand is a really, really good talent. But if he's going to Texas Tech or Miami, the price of his services goes up if the word is out that Ohio State's interested. If Ohio State's interested, oh my God, then we got to really up the ante here.
And I imagine
that might be a leverage thing.
You can find out quickly enough how interested somebody is if you work hard enough at a school. So well, you're just throwing Ohio State out there. They're not going to. But Texas Tech, it makes sense from a money perspective. And I forget the guy's name that used to play for him, and now he's become an oil speculator and has turned himself into a guy who's worth like $2 billion. Mm-hmm. And, he has made no bones. There was a big piece about him in The Athletic earlier in the football season. He's made no bones about the fact that he is going to throw as much money as possible at Texas Tech football, And, hey, good for you. It's your money.
Use it when you need it.
There you go. But is that good for Carson Beck? It could be.
If he goes there and he throws the ball 55 times a game and they run an offense that's sexy on paper and he turns those turnover numbers down, then sure, he can improve his draft stock if he proves that he can avoid turning the ball over. Because what was the big deal this year? They turned the ball, over a lot.
Well,
he threw a lot of interceptions.
He did not have. I think he tried to do a lot of forcing of the football this year, and it did not work. They did not have the kind of offense. They didn't run the ball as effectively. Again, they were just either through suspension or injury down several receivers.
The receivers drop passes. The ones that did play.
Yeah, Delp. Who you thought might be, 80% of Brock Bowers ended up being about 50% of Brock Bowers, and that made a real difference because that had become such a big weapon for the Georgia offense and the style of play that Mike Bobo was drawing up. Again, I'm not convinced that Mike Bobo is back. I think, Elijah, you made a good point that I don't disagree with. If you were going to do it, you'd go ahead and create the vacancy, even if you don't fill the vacancy. Mm-hmm. And you haven't done that yet. So, but are you, if you're Kirby, are you just kind of holding on? I'm not going to fire Mike just yet, but if I can have some talks, we'll see.
He's got the second phone.
I know. Listen, I know, like you, and a lot of us around here. I know a lot of Georgia folks, and let me tell you, man, there ain't one of them. Now, these are just fans like anybody that we deal with on a regular basis, so I get how the OCs are treated. But there ain't one of them I know. And he's one of their own.
Yeah, he is.
They do not want him back. And I think they'll pitch a fit. Now, to what degree? And Kirby doesn't care. Kirby's one of their own, too. Kirby doesn't care. Y'all start.
He's won 2 titles, baby. He's king of the castle.
Yeah. But it'll be interesting to see what happens here. But this has to mean, in my opinion, that because we were told that the surgery went well and that Carson would be able to throw again by, quote, spring. Didn't necessarily mean spring ball, but spring doesn't officially end until the 3rd week of June. But if he's ready to throw again, even by June, then you got July and August to be ready for the season, and he knows the drill. So clearly there's other things at work here. I'm not trying to be nefarious, like say, oh, they don't want him anymore. Oh, they ran afoul of somebody. No. I just think he told Kirby a few weeks ago, hey, man, I'm out, and good luck to everybody. I'm going to the draft. And then Kirby was like, cool. All right, Gunner, you're up, and let's go work on everything else. Mm-hmm. And then he changed his mind.
I think that's most likely. And he probably got some feedback from people who have watched his tape and said, hey, look, with your measurables, with the tape and everything, your grade is a 4th-round grade.
Yeah.
And if you can get in the portal and make, let's just say Texas Tech is willing to spend something outlandish, like $5 million. That is adequate. That's, comparable money to what a 4th-rounder would arguably make.
Probably more.
Maybe even more. Yeah, maybe even more. So if the money's comparable, and you can only up your draft stock, because look, if he got that type of grade, he's not hurting it significantly worse by playing another year, given his talent. I feel like we know what he is.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's hurting it significantly worse, but there's a better chance that you can improve it. So you go to a place like Texas Tech, maybe, leaving the SEC and playing in a conference where defenses maybe are prone to giving up more passing yards and it's a little more high octane offensively, can boost numbers to maybe put some better tape out there to improve that stock and make a team want to use a 2nd-rounder on you where the money's significantly better. Or dare I say it, you play well enough to get into the 1st round.
Yeah.
Which is the goal. So, I mean, the more I think about it, the more it starts to make sense. I just wasn't expecting it.
Yeah, I agree. We'll keep you updated if we get any further details on that one. Come back on the other side. I am convinced that the leaders of college athletics listen to this program. Because yesterday, I was imploring them, especially those at the highest levels of college athletics, imploring them to use the autonomy they have been granted. And today, it appears that they are on that path. We will give you details when the postgame show returns. Listen, the holidays have come and gone, all right? And now you realize, got to do something about that kitchen. Got to do something about that bathroom. Can't have all these family and friends in with these cramped quarters. And you love your house at the same time. You don't want to move. Then it is time for you to take advantage of a Palmetto Citizens home equity line of credit and get the house fixed up the way you want to. Expand, improve the kitchen, add that bathroom. Maybe the kids are getting bigger and they need more space for everything Santa brought them or anything else. Palmetto Citizens ready to help you out, and you can do it for less money than you will with the big banks. Lower rates, fewer fees, lower closing costs, all when you work with Palmetto Citizens. They've been in business here since the 1930s. They know the Midlands. They'll know your neighborhood. They know what's up all around here. They're ready to help you out. Apply today. Visit palmettocitizens.org or any of their 14 convenient Midlands locations. Palmetto Citizens, achieve your potential. Welcome back in. 20 minutes after 4 o'clock here on a Thursday afternoon. Or as Elijah likes to say, Thursday.
It's Thursday.
So yesterday we got into a little bit about a piece from Ross Dellinger on how the NIL era was shifting to the revenue sharing era, and it kind of got me, dare I say, on a little bit of a rant about how so much of this was avoidable if the powers that be had simply been proactive instead of not just reactive, but quite honestly, just acting in an archaic manner to say, oh, no, we're, or really naive. We're going to win. Again, it's kind of when it comes to legal cases and things like that. But for years, we've heard the term Power 5, now Power 4 conferences. And again, that's kind of a little moniker for them, but they are officially known within the NCAA structure as the Autonomy 5, now Autonomy 4 conferences. Well, they have an ability to do more for themselves. I have even called them, whether people like it or not, I don't know, but I've said the haves and the have-nots. And I made reference to the fact that for far too long, when it comes to full membership vote, and even in D1 with 300 plus, we're creeping closer to 400 D1 schools, right? It's like 360 now that can qualify for the basketball tournament or something like that.
I think we're at 365.
So, and I'll briefly, before I get to the meat of this, I'll briefly tell y'all that I made an analogy of imagine if like all of our cities were governed by like a council of mayors. I know there is like a mayor's count, like a thing, but it's more of an advocacy group, right? But imagine if they had collectively the ability to vote for what cities do, and big cities like LA or Chicago said, hey, listen, we want to build more trains for mass transit, and we have the money to do it, and so we're going to do it. And then towns, and I'm not picking on anybody here, but towns like Orangeburg, South Carolina, and Manning, South Carolina, and Murphy, North Carolina, and Valdosta, Georgia, and their ilk all around the country said, whoa, we don't have the money to have trains. So we're going to vote against your need for trains. I know you can afford it, but we can't. So you can't. Now, again, cities and governments would not do it that way. But that's what it's like, because whatever small school, which again I'm not picking on, is got the same vote at the NCAA level as Ohio State or Georgia or Texas or Southern California, and that is clearly not flying very well anymore. So now we get to this. Today, Ross Dellinger has a piece, and he says a proposal from the power conferences, and that they're only calling it a proposal right now, a working document, they like to say, is a collaboration of the SEC, Big Ten, Big 12, and ACC to manage postseason championships, assume control over events that have typically been run, obviously, out of Indianapolis, and would also have them remake a lot of governance, rulemaking, policies, etc. Elijah, it's just, in my opinion, it's beyond time for this. Now, I will tell y'all, too, Elijah and I talked this morning. I said, hey, before we do too much, because we'll take this into the next segment, I'm sure. I was like, let's not talk about this, because sometimes Elijah and I will talk for like 30 or 45, maybe even in an hour every morning as we plan our show. And I said, we're not going to do this today. Let's more organically go about it. And it's not because I think we're going to be contentious with one another. If you've seen Elijah's bio on Twitter, he calls himself, because he went to one, a mid-major enthusiast. And I got nothing against smaller schools, mid-major schools. I love the NCAA basketball tournament. I love the fact that Fresno State 20 years ago or whatever it was, 15 years ago and whatever, won the baseball tournament as a 4 seed. Or Kent making it, or other great stories. I love that kind of stuff. Love it. Don't want it to go away. But I also don't think it's great for, as Greg Sankey said not too long ago, for Florida Atlantic to have the same vote as Florida, or Central Michigan to have the same vote as Michigan. It's just, I even made the analogy yesterday, Elijah. There's an in-state school that's D1 that I'm not going to name because I don't want to pick on anybody. There's an in-state, in South Carolina, D1 school that has an athletics budget that is about comparable to what South Carolina spends overall on men's basketball. You're not living in the same neighborhoods, man. You're not even living in the same universe at times. So I don't know what all this is going to look like. But when it comes to governance and rules and policy, I'm here for it because they can and they should. I'll just kind of leave it at that. I share your concern, though, I believe, on what they, the Power Four, may want to do with one of the great American sporting institutions, which is the NCAA basketball tournament. And so I don't know where these lines get drawn. And again, nothing has happened as of yet. But if they have to take this to a full vote of the 300-plus members of D1 and say, are y'all on board with this? I think they're going to lose. And then what happens? That's kind of where my concerns would be.
And what the power conferences would do when they lose the vote, which in Ross Dellinger's piece, he said, from talking to someone who was the leader of an FCS football program or their athletic department, that would be the most likely outcome. But they're going to basically make them call their bluff and see if they take their ball and go home, because if they do, I don't think they're really going to like what happens. I think the thing about the NCAA and the haves and have-nots is that it is a symbiotic relationship, and one needs the other, right? I've made this, this, I guess, analogy plenty of times that if the SEC and Big Ten were to really, pick up their ball and go home and break away and do their own thing, the member schools that aren't in the top tier of those conferences aren't going to like what their reality is. Right. They're really not at all. The Purdues, the Arkansas, it's all fun and games.
South Carolina is not Georgia or Florida.
It's all fun and games until you're the equivalent of the FCS program. Yeah. Right? It's all fun and games until you don't get the bowl games anymore. You don't get that satisfaction of ending your season on a good note or going to the NCAA tournament when you're excluded because you're the bottom now. They're not gonna like that, right? That's not a reality I think that they like. I don't think they truly think they're going to enjoy living in that. You need these small schools to ultimately feast on and have these events. Like the NCAA tournament is what it is because of its unpredictability and because of the stories that we've had over the course of, its entire existence. Like a George Mason going to a Final Four, VCU, Butler. Yeah. Like those are stories that make the NCAA tournament what it is. And I think the serious concern here, and I think it is a legitimate concern, that if you give all of the control to certain conferences, they're going to act what's in their best interest. Trust me. It's not in the best interest of Greg Sankey for Auburn to lose to Yale in the first round of the men's tournament.
No, it is not.
It is not.
No, it is.
It was not in the best interest of the leadership of the Big Ten for my Middle Tennessee State Blue Raiders to beat the hell out of Michigan State in the first round of the 2015 NCAA tournament and knock out their best national title contending team. Mind you, the Big Ten hasn't had a champion since 2000 in men's basketball.
That's crazy.
Since 2000. And the closest team that's gotten there was Purdue last year. It's not in their best interest to have those teams lose to them. You give them the opportunity to chase greed and chase more money and chase what's in that financial best interest. They're going to do that no matter how short-sighted it is. So in the story where Ross Dellinger writes, he's quoted Greg Sankey saying, we're going to try to protect this and the auto bid process and everything that they do for all the champions, not championships, not just basketball, but baseball and softball. Like they're going to protect the auto bids. That's what they say. But ask yourself this, do you really believe them?
Let me answer that on the other side, because I want to answer it, and then I want to put forth a proposition.
I like a proposition.
All right. By the way, since 2000, Florida back-to-back, Kentucky has a title.
2011. Mm-hmm.
Is that it for the SEC?
I believe so. Kentucky, Florida. Yeah, that's it.
So as good as both the Big Ten and SEC are these days, it proves how hard it is to win that daggum tournament.
It is very hard to win that tournament.
All right, more to do on this story. I'd love to hear from you guys on what you think. Do you trust them? Might be the question to put forth. 803-404-6100 is the postgame show.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. The few accidents to get to that are causing some issues on the roadways. We do have an accident causing some issues on I-20 eastbound between exit 11 and exit 18. Some pretty serious traffic backup there and a pretty long delay, it looks like. Some other ones in Richland County, got an accident on Clemson Road near Longtown Road, Forum Drive at Markham Place Common Circle, Gervais Street near Millwood Avenue, one on Highway 1 at Augusta Road near I-20, one on 26 westbound after Broad River Road near exit 97, and then in Lexington County we have accidents on Westcott Road at St. Andrews Road and on Corley Mill Road near River Chase Way.
Talking the future of the NCAA, as a report today from Ross Dellinger of Yahoo says that the Power Four conferences, ACC, SEC, Big Ten, Big 12, are all in agreement on at least a proposal that would give them a lot more of the autonomy that they had been granted but never really taken advantage of, which again has been one of my biggest points of contention with those conferences. Like, why aren't you using the autonomy you were granted? But now, if they want to change things, look, there's maybe even the possibility, Elijah, of a new level of, instead of 3 divisions now. And really, we have 4 divisions when you count football. We have 4.
Because that's broken up into 2.
And it has been now for, 40-something years. But you ask me, going into the break, will they mess with the tournament, right? That's basically
one of the biggest concerns.
Yeah. I think it would be foolish to do so.
Agreed.
But at the same time, I don't know how you create. I mean, can you create a subdivision for all of D1? How do you? I'm trying to word this properly. How do you create a new division and yet allow another division into your tournament? Because if they were to break away, right, and Notre Dame comes along, maybe the American Conference comes along, kind of a thing, but I doubt it.
A handful of those schools.
Some of them could. I mean, because
Wichita State doesn't play football.
No,
That's
they don't.
American.
And but you can't have a 64 team tournament from a division that has 80 schools.
That'd be incredibly stupid.
Yeah, that'd be terrible.
Unwatchable.
Yeah, I don't want that. So you'd have to bring the Big East along at bare minimum.
Mm-hmm.
And again, there are some good basketball schools in other leagues. So I don't think you mess with the tournament. I don't think. Listen,
you can't, because that's one of your biggest moneymakers, if not the biggest moneymaker in terms of what your TV deal is.
And there it is.
And that's contingent on having those schools in there.
And there it is. If anything, and that's what I come back around to here, whether we, need a big swig of Pepto when I say things like this or not. And again, I don't advocate for it, but I'm not naive. They're going to expand that basketball tournament. In fact, in a sort of sub piece to this one, there is discussion already of taking it to 78, or I forget how the math works, but they're
I think 72, 76.
Yeah, something like that. They're taking it up. And again, I just, like I've said, they bought the NIT years ago. Just fold those 32 into the 64. Then you have 96. But you have a bye for people, just like the football team. I don't know. There's ways. Messing with the basketball tournament would be a horrible idea.
Mm-hmm.
And I do not think they will because of the money. But and here's what I'm saying. The fear from the rest of D1, so let's just call that the rest of the 275 schools, would be, oh, my God, they're going to take this away from us, and now what are we going to do? Nobody's going to watch us play if we don't have North Carolina and Duke and Michigan and UCLA and whoever else to play against. And you're right, they wouldn't. The general American sporting public that CBS wants to go after, right? Because, again, just like anything else, they know us diehards will be there. They don't care about the diehards. When they're trying to grow this thing or get as many eyeballs, they want the casual. They want the people at the office who just fill out a bracket and then go, yay, team I wrote down.
Yep. That fuels a lot of it.
And so, as I told you, I would then put forth a proposition. The power schools would have to go to the rest of D1 and say, while we are going to create a new division and we are going to create new governance for us that is based more on our financial abilities relative to y'all's, you will absolutely still be included in the national tournament, so we need you to vote for us. This is a lobbying move here, and you'll still get a cut. We're going to expand it, so there's going to actually be more. I want every champion. Elijah, I've told you before, I'd just as soon see every regular season and tournament champion get into this thing. Let's reward that. Again, that's what the NIT's been doing, right? Like, hey, if you won your one bid league's regular season, but you somehow lost in your tournament, we'll put you smack into the to the NIT. Let's put them back in the NCAA. But you got to expand the field. Mm-hmm. And then there's access, and access means the ability to make more money. So I don't know where, again, that lobbying effort may be, how that give and take comes around, but that's what I would do. The haves, and I do hate using that term, but I don't have a better one. Mm-hmm. But again, the reason we don't have tablets on the sidelines in college until now, or catcher to dugout communication, helmet to coach communication in football, is because most schools couldn't afford it. But some have been able to afford it for a long time. So you still need, and those are just examples, but you still need, Ohio State spends $275 million a year on sports. There's probably, I don't know, what conference is like Manhattan in? The MAAC?
Yeah, the MAC.
Did they spend $275 million as a conference?
Probably not.
Right. And that's not me dogging on them. That's reality. So we have these massive differences and gaps in finances. And the big brands are still the ones that those casuals most often want to watch. Plus, they have huge alumni bases. There's a give and take in there somewhere. There really is. There's a give and take in there somewhere where you can have your own governance, some of your own policies, and still invite everybody, if you will, into the fold for the basketball tournaments.
Here's the question, though. Say you are an athletic director for a school in the Atlantic Sun, mm-hmm. and someone from one of the Power Four comes up to you and says, okay, they gave you that exact same proposal that you just laid out. Mm-hmm. Do you believe they'll actually do it once you vote for them? Because this wouldn't be the first time in the history of the world that someone gets you to vote for them for something and then completely backtrack on what they promised they were going to do.
You better get it in writing, right? That's just it.
I mean,
you got to get it in writing.
Because here's the thing.
Got to be a 10-year deal or something minimum to start, something like that.
The Tony Petittis and the Greg Sankeys of the world are trying to expand the tournament to get more of their teams in. What's to say that if they have the power to keep your schools out, they're going to do it to get more money? The reason they're wanting to expand this is to get more of their schools in because they want to get more money from this thing. They want to get more milk from this cow than they already have. What, out of the 10 richest people on the planet, Jay Phillips, how many of them have ever said in their life, I think I have enough money?
Right.
That number is very small if it's one. Yeah. Right? If there is one, it's a small fraction, right? Greed fuels college sports. And if you give the SEC, the Big Ten, even the ACC and the Big 12 room to take all of the pieces of the pie and not spare a crumb, they're gonna do it. And and I think that's where the issue lies, is I don't think any of these conferences that partake in this tournament every year believe them if that was going to be the case.
Yeah, you got to get it in writing.
The alliance thing, like the power conferences will stab themselves in the back.
And did.
The Big Ten stabbed the Pac-12 in the back.
Well, again, we know. Yeah, Kevin Warren basically single-handedly convinced the presidents of the Big Ten to kill the Pac-12 conference.
Yes,
and it's dead.
And it's dead because of that.
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly what would happen. That's what these conferences rightfully fear whenever it gets down to that proponent.
And that's very fair, and it is something to be feared. And that's why I say if you're going to do it, it would have to be something that is guaranteed for X amount of time, and that if certain benchmarks are hit, there's automatic rollover. There are ways to build in protections for this kind of thing. But I don't think the American sporting public, look, over time it might just kind of fade away. But again, nobody wants an 80-school division that has a 64-team tournament. And nobody wants that tournament to just be the Sweet 16 either.
Right.
Because the Thursday and Friday of the tournament are two of the greatest days in America.
There's a reason American work productivity is significantly down.
I love them, and we all love them. I mean, and in our line of work, we're down there doing shows and watching, and I mean, it's fun, man.
Two most fun days of the year.
So nobody wants that to go away, and that's a huge part of this. But I don't want it, and I know I'm running up on time here. I don't want it to overshadow the other needs that the power schools have or then need to address when it comes to finances. So there is room for both somewhere. And hopefully by this summer, we maybe can figure some of that out. This is the Postgame Show. Welcome back into the Postgame Show here on this Thursday afternoon. Coming up next hour, headlines of the day. We'll get Elijah's further breakdown on last night's basketball game and a little bit more sound from Coach Paris, including some of the things that Elijah asked him in postgame. And then around 5:30, we'll be inviting two of you on board for a playoff edition of the Wild Card Showdown. We'll have the college games and the weekends, pro games. And a pair of tickets to Carolina, Mississippi State in about 2.5 weeks will be the prize. There you go. We were going to give you that or a Bill Gunner autographed 8x10 glossy, but Gunner has not ordered more of those yet here for the new year. So
the demand is so high.
Just have to be the basketball tickets. Sorry. But if you see Bill out at some of his favorite haunts, or just, stalk the dock, because he'll be putting the boat in the water sometime soon, even if it's cold. He doesn't care.
He won't be absent from there for long.
Nah, he doesn't care. He can't stay off that water. So just go see him and say, hey, Mr. Gunner, can I get your autograph? He loves that kind of stuff.
Loves being hounded.
Should we give out his address?
We should.
All right. Stay tuned. 4th hour.
That's when it comes in. Tell him Jay Phillips sent you.
That's right. I have personally ranked the NFL head coaching vacancies. You want me to give them to you and see if you agree? And how do you want me to start?
Yes,
do you want me to go?
this.
Do you want me to go 1 through 6, or you want me to go 6 through
Bottom
1?
up. Always bottom up.
All right. So the worst available job,
least desirable,
New York Jets.
Yes, I think that's the free space on the bingo card.
Probably. Number 5, Patriots.
Number 5.
I just think that there is so much there that is expected from that fan base. I don't know who can live up to it.
Well, the expectations are already down. Now you've had 2 straight 4-1 seasons.
Yeah, but they're going to still expect this guy to bring back those years. So I wouldn't. That's a big ask.
Fair, but you got your quarterback.
It's a big ask.
You have cap space.
Yeah. Number 4, Raiders. I just don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on there.
They're in the dumps.
I don't know what's
And
going on.
you're not getting your quarterback this year.
Beautiful stadium.
More than likely, you're not getting your quarterback this year.
Yeah, beautiful stadium, but your fan base doesn't want to drive to and or fly to Vegas anymore.
Your fans don't live in the town that you're in.
They don't. And I know that's a national fan base in a lot of ways. Raiders have always been very popular. I would say they're 4th. Is that fair? You think like 4th in the country? I've always said, Cowboys, Steelers, Packers.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think the Raiders are right there with them. There's ebb and flow to some other fan bases.
Niners.
Well, it used to be Niners and Washington and Miami used to kind of be, but I don't know. Anyway, so Raiders number 4. Number 3, your New Orleans Saints.
Okay.
I think it's a good gig in a winnable division. If you just got to get a few things to go your way.
Decent ownership. It's just you're in salary cap
I
hell.
think Ms. Benson is a good owner, man. I think her late husband was. I think she's doing a good job. I think she's got a lot of community respect. She doesn't seem
Definitely
meddlesome.
has that. Yeah.
Yeah, she's not meddlesome, but I think she's got a reputation of guys, what are we doing?
Expecting greatness because
What are we doing?
We've lived through a pretty good decade when Sean
So I think that's good. Number 2, Jacksonville.
Yeah.
You got the makings of a kid that could be. I say kid, could be. He's got Hall of Fame talent. Now he's not a Hall of Famer yet,
Right.
But Trevor Lawrence is an excellent quarterback.
Very gifted.
And but that team and franchise have been so dysfunctional most of the time. But it's hard for me to figure out why they've been so dysfunctional. I think most of it has to be ownership. But again, at the same time, a few years ago, they made the AFC title game. Now, is that one of those like when the Bears and Raiders made the Super Bowl 20 years ago? Not in the same year, obviously, but
It was in a 3-year stretch.
Sometimes you just,
Catch lightning in a bottle.
you just back your way into something like, oh, I stumbled into that. Oh, hey, wow.
They just can't string good years together.
Yeah. And so that makes the Chicago Bears the number 1 best available job. Listen, I don't think any of these jobs are great, to be perfectly honest with you. The reason I picked the Bears, they do have a quarterback. They're getting ready to build a new palace of a stadium. It's a huge city. It's a fan base that is starved for some. Look, they should have hired Harbaugh.
Yeah, they kind of missed out on that.
I don't know why they didn't. I don't know.
If only you're going to fire Matt Eberflus the next year.
Yeah, I mean, if you there's no way on God's green earth that the Hallis family looked around and said, well, Matt Eberflus is pretty much just like old Jimmy Harbaugh, who was a Bear. I mean, so I don't know who's
was a human, but did play for the Bears. Yes,
that's true.
Yeah.
I think he's human.
Well, even that's debatable. He told Justin Herbert he remembered the day he was born. Maybe he's a lion. But
see what you did there. So those are my hard and fast rankings, and I expect everybody to conform to the 1 through 6. Headlines of the day coming up. More on Gamecock Hoops Picks Contest, all in the final hour of the Postgame Show.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. The few accidents to get to that are causing some issues on the roadways this afternoon, starting with a pretty serious accident on 20 eastbound between exit 11 and 18. Some serious stop-and-go traffic as a result of that and a pretty significant delay. Other accidents creating more minor traffic backups on Westcott Road at St. Andrews Road. I-26 westbound after Broad River Road near exit 97. Highway 1 at Augusta Road near I-20. Gervais Street near Millwood Avenue, Forum Drive at Marketplace Common Circle, Corley Mill Road near River Chase Way, and lastly on Bull Street near Elmwood Avenue.
It is 5 o'clock news time on this Thursday. Welcome back in. It's also the final hour of the Postgame Show alongside Elijah Campbell. I'm Jay Phillips. We appreciate you being with us. We start with news that came down in the 2 o'clock hour that has really stunned the college football world. Georgia quarterback Carson Beck will enter the transfer portal rather than move on from college football and head to the NFL draft. Initially, after his injury, he had said, I'm going to get this fixed, and I'm going to go on to the NFL. Well, today it was announced, first by Pete Nakos of On3, Pete Thamel of ESPN, Bruce Feldman, Seth Emerson of The Athletic, all now in on the reporting that, yes, indeed, Carson Beck has decided to move on elsewhere in college football. Pete Nakos, again, of On3 Sports, reporting that Miami is the leader for Carson Beck's services, but that Ohio State and Texas Tech have at least, I guess, had some kind of contact or have shown some level of interest in Carson Beck. I would imagine other schools will as well. Again, we're all looking for more detail. Seth Emerson, who I referenced, of course, is based in Athens, even though he covers the entire Southeastern Conference for The Athletic. So I imagine that Seth is working overtime today to try and find out exactly what the folks inside the Georgia program knew of this, what kind of conversations there were, because, again, if you're wanting to enhance your draft status, and he does, you stay at Georgia unless there's something. I mean, you're at Georgia, and you've already been really good for 2 years at Georgia, and you waited 2 years to be the guy at Georgia. It just that's why I say this stunned me. I want to feel like in what we do for a living, Elijah, and even for a lot of folks listening that are fans of sports, it's harder and harder to be shocked or stunned or just overly surprised by things. But
so it makes this so fun.
This is, in my opinion, this is one of those things. Once Carson Beck decided to enter the draft, was that a signal to Kirby Smart and to a lesser degree Mike Bobo that, okay, Gunnar Stockton, who's already playing for us, is now our guy? He was preparing to be our guy ultimately anyway. Now we just speed up his development by a year, and we're ready to move on. Is there concern from within the Georgia program on exactly what Carson's arm is going to be like when he's fully rehabilitated? Again, the word after the surgery, which was successful, is that Carson would be ready to throw in the spring. I'm quoting, in the spring.
Vague.
Again, that's late March to late June. I don't know if that means available for spring ball. You want him to have spring ball, but if he missed spring ball, you know what? Veteran dude.
He's fine.
Yeah, it ain't going to matter that much. Not like somebody who would need the full-on seasoning, if you will. So, and I'm not trying to sit here and say, and speculate on nefarious goings-on within the Georgia football program. But, again, if you wanted to keep playing college football and you're already at one of the 3 or 4 most premier programs in the country, why would you not just stay there?
Yeah, that's where they could be an array of things. It could be a raise. Maybe he is getting a raise if he plays somewhere else.
Well, and Texas Tech, you and I talked about that. They got an alum who played football for them who is now worth a couple of billion and has made no secret that he is going to pour as much of his expendable cash into Texas Tech athletics.
Yeah. So maybe it's a raise. Maybe it's wanting to be closer to his girlfriend who does play basketball at the University of Miami. They have a very public relationship. That could be part of it.
Sure.
And maybe he's got family in Miami. Maybe there's other people that he's close to that are in Miami. He's from Jacksonville.
Right.
So maybe, and Jacksonville's not close to Miami, but like a big state. But I mean, maybe it's closer with some people that
it is technically closer than Athens.
Yeah,
but my
technically.
God, driving all the way down to Miami is horrible.
I've not done it, and I don't plan on
I'll
doing
never do it
If
again.
I'm ever going to Miami,
I
I'm
will
flying.
never do it again.
I am using the gift the Wright brothers gave me, and I will be hopping on a plane.
Amen.
But yeah, so maybe that's a reason. But I think the what makes this so shocking too is just that if I told you at SEC Media Day is that Carson Beck starts every game except the last one for Georgia. They win an SEC championship. They're the only team to beat Texas, and say Texas. I tell you that Texas also is in the semifinal, but the only team to beat him has been Georgia. And he throws 20-plus touchdown passes, and then I tell you he gets in the transfer portal. You wouldn't believe that.
No.
You wouldn't believe that no matter how convincing I was, no matter how much proof I was able to provide you. You'd think I'm making it up. You'd be like, man, these advances in artificial intelligence have really gone way too far. But no, I mean, that's what I guess what makes it so stunning is not that it's not like Georgia went 7-5.
Right.
They won the SEC.
Right.
They got a bye in the college football playoff. Now, granted, they didn't get to play in the playoff game, and who knows how much that changes things because the offense did struggle this year. Mm-hmm. But that's what makes it really surprising. But, I mean, it could be a plethora of things. And one thing it does, I think, tells us for sure is that the Carson Beck camp feels like they will be at least in a better situation by not going into the draft, which means it probably didn't get a good grade during the process.
Most things I've seen have said day 3.
Yeah.
If there's just, preliminary.
I've seen some mocks that have him late second.
Yeah.
But it's either he's getting draft grades that are later in the draft, which wouldn't be very profitable draft spots for him, or he is taking a gamble. I don't know what his risk assessment is like as an individual, but there is a risk that if he goes and he has a successful year elsewhere, that maybe he does prove his stock to be first round worthy. Maybe. There are a lot of things at play here, but I think the feedback he got on his NFL draft evaluation has something to do with the decision of coming back and entering the portal.
I can't personally see him going to, and I'm not saying he can't play for them. These are, so hear me out. I can't see him going to Ohio State. I don't see Ohio State going, yeah, we'll do that for a year.
Yeah, will you tell Julian Sand no for one more year? I don't think so.
And that's why I'm starting to wonder here too if there is just even a mild level of concern from within the Georgia program about what his arm's going to look like next year as they do admit, whether it's outwardly or inwardly admit, man, we got to make something different here. Mm-hmm. Like, we can't do this 2-loss thing again. Even if we won the conference, we can't do this 2-loss thing, and we can't. We gotta be better. Yeah, and it's obvious because the defense was elite.
It was fantastic, and Carson Beck had a little bit of a turnover issue.
He
this
did.
year.
I mean, I think you and I mentioned it earlier. Yeah, we've mentioned it a lot actually. I think he forced a lot of things because he's got confidence in himself, and I think Kirby and Mike were good with him doing some of that. But, far too often it just kind of bogged things down for Georgia in some key situations. Again, overall talent just ended up winning today and winning the conference in a literal situation. But once again, Carson Beck entering the transfer portal with Pete Nakos of On3 reporting that Miami may be a kind of leader in the clubhouse for his services, but heavy interest from Texas Tech, maybe Ohio State. Will others enter the fray? We were speculating here in the building off air. Would Bill Belichick want to take a look at a guy like that? Are there others? I mean, listen, you always need great quarterbacks. I mean, 90% of the schools in the country would be looking at Carson Beck as a quarterback upgrade, for what they want to do. So we'll see. But I look forward to more reporting on this to try and figure out the why, because we all want to speculate. Mm-hmm. And right now it's just like, what? So I don't know. In the meantime, as we continue our integrated media headlines of the day, South Carolina falls last night in men's basketball to Alabama, 88-68. was the final. And we'll have more on this game coming up in our 5:15 segment where we focus on the Gamecocks. But here's Coach Paris. Just a little over a minute last night on what Alabama did from outside and what he sees in terms of room for improvement from his own squad.
No, I mean, even a couple of them were tough. I mean, some of them weren't, but a couple of them were. Like, we picked the ball up in the backcourt, and Holloway dribbles up, bumps the guy off of him, and steps back into a deep three. But it was their day that way. There's a lot of room for growth for us. I just think we have a smaller margin of error, but the good news is we're not. It's not like we're bumping our head on some of the things that are controllable. That we still can get better at some things. You know, we cut the lead down to 14 there in the second half, and then we foul 2 times in a row in situations that just weren't even foul situations. Colin gives up a layup from the corner to a guy closing out to a guy that doesn't shoot threes at all, and there's bang, 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 6 points in a row, and then that's, you know, there goes that opportunity to really make a move. So they have a good team. They're aggressive. They attack. You know, they're really aggressive, and that's an area that it's good for us to see that, because the whistle tends to favor the more aggressive team. And, you know, you look at Nick. I thought Nick was really good at trying to attack, and when he attacked, he got fouled. But he was the one guy that made real, actual, strong, aggressive moves, and he reaped the rewards of those strong moves.
Can Carolina fans, Elijah, take any level of encouragement, hope from something that Coach just said right there in terms of, hey, it's been really good for us to see this? You are starting with 3 of the better teams, not only in the conference but in the country. And I think they increase in ability with each of the first 3 opening teams you've seen in league play. Jack Veltri even mentioned it. It might not be any harder than this after these first 3 games.
That's your silver lining.
But, you know, or is that too much of a pipe dream?
Well, I mean, certainly. I mean, you're going to take a dip down, but here's the thing. Here's what the dip down in the SEC is. A Vanderbilt team who is dramatically improved from last year to this year. That's a team that's top 50 in Ken Pom, and that's going to be a road game. Memorial is never an easy place to play, especially if you have guys on your roster who've never played there.
Right.
Oklahoma, after that, also on the road. Oklahoma, one of the more improved teams in college basketball. They got some bona fide scorers, and they played a really good Texas A&M defense last night and shot the lights out from beyond the arc. And, yeah, you're playing them in Oklahoma in their gym where they do have the capability of lighting up the scoreboard. And then you have Florida coming back to home, and that's a team that just got done beating the number 1 team in the country by 30-plus and held them to 43 points.
And scored 100 points in losing to Kentucky.
Tennessee shot less than 30% from 2, less than 15% from 3, and 60% from the free throw line. It was a raucous environment. It was not very pretty. Florida is an elite basketball team, number 5 in Ken Pom, by the way.
Yeah.
I think they're one of maybe the 7, 8 best teams in the country. And then Mississippi State back at home. Granted, you know, maybe not the 3 or 4 best teams in the SEC, but still a legitimate basketball team. They just went to Vanderbilt and won by double figures. So you get them back at home before then having a slight breather against Georgia. Oh, this year's Georgia team is a top 40 Ken Pom team. They just got done beating Kentucky by double figures at home. You got to go to Stegman in that same arena. And then you get Texas A&M at home. Like, I'll keep going on and all. Like, the only reprieve you get, really, is like LSU, Vanderbilt, if you still want to consider them that on the road, Missouri, if you still want to consider them that on the road as well. And then, you know, maybe you hope when Arkansas gets here in March that they've been just completely beaten down by playing for Cal and the scrutiny that comes with it. So, yeah, it's a yes and no thing. You know, you won't have a stretch like this where you're playing, you know, 2 top 5 teams in the same week, but not 2 top 15 teams in a week.
Well,
We're
I mean,
splitting hairs at that point.
As you mentioned, all but one right now, other than you, and you can't play yourself, unfortunately, is a top 50 team in the net ranking. I mean, they're just the SEC has quite literally never been better than it is right now in men's basketball.
I mean, Ken Pom's been tracking conferences for forever, right, in terms of strength of conferences, like cumulative efficiency of every team in a conference. This is the highest grade at a plus 20.57 net rating of the entire conference that he's ever had.
Ever. Yeah. No, it's that's what you're looking at here. We'll come back on the other side. That's our integrated media headlines of the day, 803-948-8327 for all your home theater needs and so much more, including the brand new Pro Swing on Forest Drive. Oh, man, it's going to be fun. Oh, I'm so excited. Call our good friends at Integrated Media. More from Elijah's perspective on last night's loss and what it means for the future of men's basketball here in the short term. You're listening to the Postgame Show.
The professional football playoffs, they're coming up. It's this weekend. Some awesome games going on, and you can cash in on your knowledge of the professional football ranks and even the college football playoff. Look, we got a game tonight, got a game tomorrow, all this playoff football action. You're listening to the station. I know you know ball. I know you do. I've talked to a lot of you. You guys know your stuff. Cash in on it with my friends over at Prize Picks. It's very easy. You just download the app. You pick more or less on a few player stat projections, and you can possibly win up to 100 times your cash. And I've been using it for all sports. I mean, a big pro basketball guy. I've been all in on Norman Powell scoring more, going more on his point totals, whatever they are, because he's been on an absolute scoring tear. And then tonight, I'm going less on Jeremiah Smith yards because he is going up against the Thorpe Award winner and Jahdae Barron. Just something to look for. But download the app today. Use promo code 1075GAME and get $50 when you place your first $5 lineup. Again, promo code 1075GAME. Prize Picks. Run your game.
Welcome back into the postgame show. I'm just laughing at another post from Message Board Geniuses, but this has actually been retweeted from back in August. It's a Georgia fan who said, I really don't like the fact that Carson Beck got his degree this summer. And it goes on to say how instead of focusing on football in the summer, he was getting his degree from, a prestigious university.
How dare he? How dare he focus on education at any point?
And so I guess that was the end of it all for.
If you're not injecting film from games into your veins, you're not doing enough.
This guy, it says, I'm going to be honest, I don't like that Carson Beck got his degree this summer, and now we've got Kirby celebrating it on Twitter. The Clemson game is in 3 weeks. This summer was not the time to sit in some decrepit room in Park Hall listening to some random clown in a tweed jacket who never lettered in bleep run his mouth about Tom Sawyer or some author like him.
That's the kicker. That's the kicker. Yes, famous author Tom Sawyer.
It was time, and this one's in all caps. It was time to focus on the season, to focus on Alabama and Texas and Florida. Well, they were 3-1 in those games.
Well, yeah, 3 weeks until the Clemson game. Oh, the one that you won by 31 points in?
Yeah. This is a crisis of culture for this team. They need to be laser-focused, stuffing Dabo in a locker, and on and on. You don't do that, this guy concludes, by going to class. Wow. All right. It's NASCAR Dog is his Twitter handle. And I'm going to go out on a limb.
Of course, someone who's NASCAR Dog as his name is the one, when he talks about culture problems at Georgia, talks about them going to class and not the actual fast racing and car driving that happened.
Or,
in the
again,
offseason.
running his mouth about world-famous author Tom Sawyer.
Yes. I thought Tom Sawyer was the lead singer for Rush.
That's just a song.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
whatever.
see. Well, you should have gone to class
It's the
and you'd
same.
have known
Yeah,
that.
exactly. Maybe if I did.
Yeah, just a song. So there's that. Anyway, all right, back into some basketball. By the way, coming up in about 10 minutes, we're going to be inviting 2 of you on board to play this week's edition of the Wild Card Showdown. Nothing but playoff games. Nothing but playoff games. I know you want to set up the question that you had last night. And again, look, we don't sit here and we're not trying to beat anybody up, not trying to rain on your parade. But this basketball team is more than struggling. And It's not, listen, I'm going to just call it like I see it. It is incredibly unlikely to get better on Saturday. But there are things that I know you like to look at and things that you did or didn't see last night. And one of them you asked Lamont about in terms of what this team must improve upon.
Yeah, last night, the assist-to-turnover ratio wasn't very good. And that was one thing the team did really well last year, right? Last year in conference play, the offense was at its best when that ball was moving. I think you guys can remember the game at Georgia last year where it was 14 of the first 18 buckets of the game were assists, or 14 of the first 16, right?
Something
An
like
insanely high assist percentage. And this year, for the entire season, it's not bad, but they're 12th in assist rate right now. They are pretty low in turnover rate, 13th out of 16 teams in turnover rate. Overall, it's a 19 to 28 assist to turnover ratio, not cutting it, unfortunately. So I asked Lamont what he thinks is maybe the reason for some of that, not the lack of ball movement and maybe some of the carelessness with the ball.
Yeah, I think Mississippi State is I think that game, they play a unique style of defense. So opening up with that game, I think it probably skews it a little bit because there's not as much ball movement against them. It's just you're not going to attack it that way. So I think that skews it a little bit, but that doesn't excuse anything that happened with turning the ball over tonight. And I think it's decisions and execution of those decisions. Throwing a pocket pass, there's a window. It's certainly the right decision. Execution of that. I think there were a lot of situations where if we went back to that scenario, you could complete that play. I think you can complete that play. I think you just we have to be better. We have to be better basketball players than that. If you're going to turn those over, then you're going to have a lot of turnovers. We haven't done that in a lot of games. We've had so many same situations. You got longer and more athletic guys that are getting here. Maybe they're sped up a little bit more than what they have, but you got to learn to slow down. And if we run a ball screen play, there's a reason why people run ball screens. You get an advantage. The defense has to decide what they're going to do. If they do this, you do that. If they do that, you do this. Like, we have to be able to execute those things. I think they're pretty normal things that if you're a player at this level, the expectation should be that you're able to do those things without turning the ball over.
Last night, one of the things that you and I were communicating about was there was a period there early. I thought Carolina, fundamentally at least, was playing pretty good basketball. It's just you were clearly outmatched. Mm-hmm. And then to that last point that Lamont made about, getting sped up and basically, and now he didn't say this, but I am, like the awareness of what has to happen in those moments. All of a sudden, South Carolina's guys just looked like they had, the game plan be damned. I'm going to try to make something happen here. And the ball was all over the place. They were all over the place. They just they lost their head. And they didn't really need to. And I feel like that kind of thing is what he's alluding to there. And I would say that was, maybe, 6 or 7 minutes left first half. And it just, all of a sudden, I was like, wait. Why are you not at least trying to play within yourselves here? Mm-hmm. And so, how much of that, again, is just a lack of fundamental awareness relative to, oh, no, I can make a play. I don't know. But I saw a team that looked structured suddenly just begin to crumble.
Yeah, and a lot of it is just kind of fundamental stuff and playing calm and not getting sped up. The thing about Talon Cooper that was so awesome last year, he never once got sped up. Right. I mean, really, the only time I think you could ever say that he looked overwhelmed was when you're playing in Alabama or in Auburn, which was just a bad matchup for that team, and that's why those games resulted in the blowouts they did. But in other games where teams would try to speed South Carolina up, you couldn't do it because Talon was the primary ball handler. He made sure the offense never got beyond its ability offensively. He was fundamentally sound. The play style may not be the sexiest, but it was sound. It was not turning the ball over. It was maintaining the pace that your team's comfortable with. And he was also a really good, fundamentally sound passer. Passing is the one thing that when I watched this team last night, even by watching with the context of this Alabama team's a top 5 team in college basketball, this is a team that coming into the year was the AP #1 team for a reason. That's a really good basketball team. So you kind of have to grade it on a curve. And last night, I even came to the realization with that in mind, this team just doesn't pass the ball well enough to beat those teams. Right. Unfortunately for you, you're in the Southeastern Conference. You're going to play a lot of those teams. That's going to be a majority of your conference schedule is against those teams. And to beat really good defense, you have to be fundamentally sound passing the ball. I think they make the right decisions a lot of times in where to pass the ball, but they're off target. And I go back to one play last night, one of Jacoby Wright's 2 turnovers, in a game in which he played fantastic when it comes to scoring the ball, getting to his spots and getting comfortable in jump shooting. I think the one of the plays that just sticks in my mind is there was a screen and roll with him and Colin. He has a pocket pass that's available. It's a short window. You got to make this pocket pass, and that ball's got to be bounced past at the right spot for Colin to catch it. He catches that ball in stride. He's dunking it. The pass is a little behind him, and the ball picked off. They're going the other way, and it's a turnover. It's those little differences, right? I think the one thing that you can be encouraged about is that they do make the right decisions with passes, but fundamentally, the ball is not getting where it needs to be. Like a quarterback dropping back and seeing a slant route and knowing the ball's got to lead the receiver a little bit, because if you don't, the receiver's running and the ball goes behind him. It's kind of like that. Like you made the right read, you made the right pass, right, but the ball's got to be at a very specific part.
But you didn't execute the play.
You didn't execute. I don't think they're executing the plays in the passing element of this offense, and that's what's hurting them right now and leading to a lot of the turnover numbers we see.
Come back on the other side of the break. Get 2 of you on board, 803-404-6100. It's time to play a playoff edition of the Wild Card Showdown. Got some hoops tickets up for grabs as a prize if you can beat us. 803-404-6100. Playoff Showdown next.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. The few accidents to get to that are causing some issues on the roadways. Starting with the disabled vehicle that's got the right lane blocked on I-26 eastbound before exit 136. We have some more minor traffic backups as a result of accidents on Alpine Road at US 1 and 2 Notch Road, Bull Street near Elmwood Avenue, Devine Street near Woodrow Street, Gervais Street near Hugh G. Street, I-20 eastbound at Wilson Boulevard near exit 71, I-20 westbound at Alpine Road near exit 76B, Old Lexington Highway at Old Bush River Road, Patricia Drive at Leesburg Road, Sandbar Ferry Road, and then lastly one on 2 Notch Road at Highway 6 and South Lake Drive.
Well, instead of a drive around the SEC today, although I'll give you an update on a basketball score. How's that?
I like updates.
South Carolina is doubling up Texas A&M as we speak, 34-17 in women's basketball, 4.5 to play first half.
Love it.
Right down the street at CLA.
Jump on them early.
That's right. That's right. There you go. All right, let's cue the band, and we'll play a playoff edition of the Wild Card Showdown. We've got Wooly, and we've got Dakar ready to play. Uh-oh, we just lost Wooly. Did we just lose Wooly?
I hate the soundboard sometimes. It just dropped Willis. I want to call him back.
All right, I tell you what. Yeah, so sit tight, Dakar, and we'll get Wooly back on the line. So, Wooly, if you're listening, don't worry. Elijah's calling you right now. Real quick, by the way, I'll give you last night, let's see, Ole Miss beat Arkansas in Fayetteville, 73-66. And A&M came back from 18 down in Norman to beat OU 80-78 in men's basketball. There you go. So there's a little bit of a drive around the SEC. And again, Carolina playing A&M right now. They're on a 6-0 run, 34-17. Again, about 4 minutes to play first half at CLA. All right, Elijah's got Wooly ready to go. Now we've got Dakar. All right, guys.
We're going to have to go, do the...
We're going to do the back and forth? All right, we're having a little thing?
It's that. Yep.
Gotcha. All right, well, then I'll tell you what. Who you want me to go first with?
We'll go Dakar, since he's already on.
Dakar is ready to go, and then we'll let Wooly play all these. Dakar, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Doing all right. All right, we got the college games, one including tonight. Then we got the NFL games, and we got what I think could be an interesting tiebreaker stat, so we'll see. All right, Dakar, we'll start with you. Tonight's game, Notre Dame, just a 1-point favorite over Penn State down in Miami. What do you think?
I'm going with Notre Dame.
Notre Dame. That'll obviously pretty much win the game. Elijah Campbell.
Notre Dame.
Notre Dame. Well, that's going to make
that defense.
3 of us, and we'll see what Wooly thinks in just a minute. All right, and Dallas/Arlington tomorrow night. Ohio State, a 6-point favorite over Texas. Elijah Campbell, I'll start with you.
Give me Ohio State. I think Texas settles for too many field goals, and Ohio State will score touchdowns in the red zone.
Yeah, I just think unless Ohio State turns the ball over like 4 times or something, Texas will have more fans there. Ohio State will have plenty of fans there. Again, Ari Wasserman of On3 basically said, hey, I'll take like -12 or something. And he's
feeling it.
Really convinced.
Best team in the sport right now.
So I'll go Ohio State in that one. Dakar, what do you think?
I am going Ohio State.
Ohio. To get that one done. All right, to the National Football League we go next. Elijah Campbell, I'll start with you. Baltimore, 9.5-point favorites at home over the Steelers. Third time this season.
9.5.
In a playoff.
Yeah. Give me Mike Tomlin in a playoff game to keep it close. The Ravens are going to win.
Mm-hmm.
But if you give me the Steelers the chance to keep it in single digits, I'm going to take that.
That's kind of how I've been feeling because Pittsburgh can play some defense. And if things get comfortable for Baltimore, do they maybe sit Lamar down late and then like the Steelers get like a garbage time touchdown or something?
Not out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, it's not. It's not. That's a lot of points in a playoff game. So I too am going to take the Steelers. Dakar.
I'm going with the Ravens.
All right. Listen, they might just end up doing it, man.
I'm still sticking to my guns that they're in the Super Bowl.
Okay.
Ravens, Lions.
Okay, that'd be fun. I'm here for that. Philadelphia hosting Green Bay. Dakar, I'll go back to you. Eagles -4.5 in this one. Both quarterbacks listed, at least this morning, as questionable, but both are expected to play.
That's at Philly, right?
It is.
I think I'm going with Philly.
Going with the Eagles, says Dakar. I don't know if this is like a shock the world, hot take kind of thing. I've got Green Bay, and I'm just going to say, even though I don't get bonus points for it, Packers to win the football game. I should get bonus points for that.
You should, but you won't.
Yeah.
But it's not going to happen anyway. We're not going to have to worry about it because the birds
All right. So
are going to do what the birds
you guys say Philly. Okay, wild card time. Dakar, your game is the Bucks 3-point favorites at home over the Washington Commanders.
Ooh. Oh. They playing in Tampa Bay. I believe I'm going to take the Bucks.
Taking Tampa.
And Baker Mayfield.
He's playing well, man.
He is?
He's playing well. He and that one of those throws he had the other day, I was like, man, you can't. That was something. He's doing all right. Again, patience in the NFL is a virtue, but not many owners want to show it. So there's that. All
Definitely.
right. I tell you what, Dakar, let me give you the tiebreaker stat, and then Elijah and I will make our wild card picks with Wooly so we can have some fun with him too. The tiebreaker stat is passing yards for Jordan Love against the Eagles. Pass yards for Jordan Love against the Philly defense. What do you think, Dakar?
What if he doesn't play?
If he doesn't play,
0.
Yeah, then we'll have to. I suppose we can all agree here that maybe we'll just do passing yards for Green Bay. But I think he's going to play. I think again questionable on a Thursday for a weekend game, but that's a fair question. I thought about that myself. But we'll just say pass yards for Green Bay if that ends up being the case.
All right. I'm going to say 208.
208. All right. Good stuff. All right. Do we have all Dakar's intel?
We do.
All right. Good stuff. All right, Dakar, appreciate you, buddy. And
I appreciate it.
I'd say enjoy the weekend, but we got one more day of doing all this work-wise. So, but enjoy the weekend anyway, man. Enjoy all the football, including tonight. All right, let's bring Wooly on board to make some more picks here, and then we'll make our wild card picks. Wooly, how you doing, man?
Glorious. Happy New Year.
Yeah, right back. There you go. There, look at that, Wooly. Getting on the 9th day of the year. I love it. See, Wooly's my kind of guy. Elijah's over there frowning. I'm just kidding. He's really
I am.
All right, Wooly. Notre Dame 1-point favorites tonight over the Nittany Lions. What do you think?
Well, I want to pick Notre Dame, but I'm going to take State.
Well, if you want to pick Notre Dame, you can.
I'm taking State.
All right. Penn State, he says. Penn State. Just saying, if you wanted to, man. It is America. You can do it.
That's true.
Ohio State, 6-point favorites tomorrow night in Dallas against the Longhorns.
I'm taking Texas.
Texas. All right. There's the outlier.
Zigging while others are zagging.
That's
what I'm
two
talking
zigs.
about.
That's 2 zigs for Wooly. I like it, man. I like it. Baltimore and Pittsburgh. Baltimore 9.5-point favorites, Wooly, in Baltimore.
I'm taking the Ravens to go to the Super Bowl.
All right. So we'll have them again next week. All right. Gotcha. Baltimore. And, again, Philadelphia, 4.5-point favorites over Green Bay in Philly.
I'm taking the Pack.
Taking the Packers. So he's with me on that one.
He has faded all of my picks.
Yeah.
This is the anti-Elijah card.
I like it. I like it. I like it. Okay. Wooly, your wild card game is Vikings 1-point favorites over the Rams. Now, I will say, not that it matters a whole lot in terms of when, but they are probably going to move this game to Phoenix. We don't know that as of yet. At least I haven't seen it this afternoon. But there is the possibility that this game gets moved to Phoenix. But the Rams are the technical home team. But a 1-point game. Wooly, what do you think?
Vikings.
Minnesota, and their 14 wins. Elijah Campbell? Elijah Campbell gets, I'm glad I don't have to pick my team or against my team. Buffalo Bills, 8.5-point favorites over the Denver Broncos. Do remember who your co-host is when you make this pick.
And that's why I will take the Bills -8.
Oh, my God. You're just a horrible human being, aren't you?
A little bit.
It's terrible. And I have the Chargers and the Texans. The Chargers 3-point favorites in Houston. Give me the fighting Jim Harbaughs to win.
Road favorites.
On the road. Wooly, tiebreaker stat, pass yards for Jordan Love, but if he doesn't play for the Packers.
330.
330. Elijah Campbell.
I originally wrote down 207, but the Dakar dropped 208, and I want to get a little bit of separation, so I'll move that up to 214.
214. I'll go 235. How's that? All right, there we go. Wooly, appreciate you, bud. Have a good one, man. We'll let you know here, I guess on Tuesday, actually, because we have a Monday night game in all this one. And Dakar, thank you as well. All right, that's the Wild Card Showdown for the week. We'll recap some of these, look ahead to tonight's game, get you an update on Carolina A&M women's basketball as well when the postgame show returns. Welcome back in. Final few minutes of the postgame show here on this Thursday afternoon. Update halftime at CLA. Carolina over A&M 37-17. So at least early life without Ashlyn Watkins. Good to South Carolina.
Good to see that 17 in the Texas A&M scoring column.
Yeah, Joyce Edwards with 10 off the bench to lead the Gamecocks. Chloe Kitts has 7. Tessa Johnson has 6, including 3 of 4 from the line. So there you go. And Carolina out-rebounding A&M so far, at least 22-18. Again, halftime, 37-17, South Carolina. Tonight, I guess officially, it's the Orange Bowl. Right?
Can we make it the FedEx Orange Bowl again?
I don't know.
That'd be great.
I don't know. It's a playoff game in Miami that they're calling the Orange Bowl, but it's a playoff game. It's not the Orange Bowl. It's a playoff game. I know
It's
they'll
still
give
the Orange Bowl.
They'll give them a trophy and it'll be full of oranges. But again, I go back to the Orange Bowl of what? The first Georgia title year, and the players were about to dump Gatorade on Kirby's head, and he was like, "The heck you are!" Although it was probably stronger than that.
What, the Gatorade?
No, the language.
Oh,
or the Gatorade. I don't know.
Spike in
I don't know
Gatorade. I
what
mean, they were
I don't know
pretty
what they
big in
put
that second half, and they were in Miami.
Yeah, I don't know what they put in there. A lot of rum used to run through Miami on a regular basis.
There's a lot of stuff that used to run through Miami on a regular basis. I've seen Scarface. Great film. One of those, if it's on TV, I'm watching it. If it's on, I sat through watching commercials on Tubi because, I got a Vizio TV. You turn the TV on and it gives you all the stuff that's free on these free streaming apps.
Yep.
Saw Scarface. I was like, oh, I know what I'm doing.
Man, that probably takes
That's it.
5 hours to watch on Tubi.
Oh, it was a commitment. Yeah. Worth it, though.
Because you can't speed through the commercials.
No, you cannot.
Tubi has a couple of things. Pluto has a couple of things. But, man, you got to
Not even a planet.
You got to watch a lot of commercials.
Yeah, that part sucks.
I don't mind. I
Don't love it.
I
get it.
Well, you and I get paid by, people buying commercials on our airwaves.
And if it makes the product free, then that is a
Free helps.
trade-off I can make. I can accept.
What I don't like now is I was watching a movie on Prime the other day, and it was a movie, not a TV show. And even then, I'm like, wait, why am I getting all these commercials on Prime? Now, is there an extra tier of Prime that I'm not buying?
Maybe. Yeah, that's how I feel about Peacock. But here's my biggest gripe with Tubi.
I'm used to it with Peacock.
Pluto. The commercial placement is what makes me mad.
Right.
And there's no fade
it's
into
random.
the commercial.
Right. It's just random.
It just cuts
Yeah,
straight to commercial.
yeah.
You could be in an intense scene and just bam, straight to commercial.
Right.
And you're immediately it ruins the scene for a bit. You're like, oh, great.
I agree. Yeah, it'd be like if you were watching Empire Strikes Back and right before a key moment when one character tells another character how they may or may not be related, then it would just cut.
Just bam, right to it.
Yeah.
Or like in Men in Black when the aliens, dying is like the galaxy's in. It's in. Bam, commercial.
Commercial, sure.
Here's an Ozempic commercial.
But anyway, so now that we've done that, I like Notre Dame tonight. This seems to me, and it's not that I want to be wrong or anything. Penn State for the last darn near 40 years just seems to push right up to the precipice, but not be able to take that next step. Yeah. And I feel like, I was listening to Andy Staples this morning. He's like, how close did Penn State in the 4-team era get to the playoff? And it was really close, but they couldn't get in.
Because it required beating an Ohio State or Michigan.
Now they've won 2 games, and they are in the so-called Final Four, if you will, what they could not get to in the previous iteration. And yet, are they now up against listen, I think Notre Dame and Ohio State are just playing at a level that their opponents are not.
Yeah.
And that's why I think that will be our national title matchup.
Especially on one side of the ball.
Yeah.
Ohio State's offense got completely changed when they realized that they've got, a perennial all-pro wide receiver on the outside. One of the best true freshman talents at that position the sport has seen in a long time. We got enamored with what Ryan Williams was at Alabama at the beginning of the year. He's 17. He's doing all this against Georgia. And he went radio silent for a good chunk of the year, too.
Yeah.
Jeremiah Smith, they realized they got this guy on the outside. Throw him the damn football, and they've done it, and it's unlocked the offense in a way that we haven't seen even Ohio State do at times this year.
Right, and like a lot of people are saying it too. And we'll talk more about Ohio State tomorrow night. But again, whether you want to hear it or not, losing to Michigan was the best thing that happened to them.
Had a reset. It was a forced reset.
I don't buy in at all. Well, Tennessee had to go up north and it was cold. I'm like, nah, man.
Nope.
Tennessee
They had to play Ohio State.
Yeah, Tennessee was practicing in the snow in Knoxville. They had to play Ohio State. Exactly. Yeah. So we'll see. But I like Notre Dame to get it done tonight. We'll have a recap of that. We'll talk more Gamecock football tomorrow as well as some portal visitors are in town. How much progress did they make? We'll do that for you. Get you ready for the NFL weekend too. Y'all have a fun night, and we'll see you tomorrow.